Welcome back to 1010 Podcast, coming to you from Kenga Motorsports Studio. Sorry, that was annoying.
Kind of.
You can blame James for that.
50%.
Yep.
50% of us.
Yeah. So, which means at least 50% of our listeners found it annoying. The other 50% tolerate it because they somehow like me, which is weird.
I don't know. I would think at this point, like, you got to at least like us
Collectively.
individually.
A little.
Well, obviously you like us collectively, but like you got to at least kind of like us individually, or you would have left by now.
For sure.
Unless you're new here, then welcome.
We appreciate you.
And I promise Robbie isn't as bad as he seems.
I can promise you that he's worse. I know the guy pretty well. It's no good. People ain't no good, and he's people.
Robbie is his biggest critic, though. You can't.
Yeah, I don't do it.
You can't take what he says about himself.
I can't do anything right. Trust me.
Oh, Jesus. Come on now.
But I can do this podcast consistently-ish for 3 years.
Almost 4. No, more than that.
Is it 4?
It is 4 because we put out like 3 or 4 episodes before my kid was born.
Yep.
And he's 4.
Yeah. Well, damn.
So
this is like the longest relationship I've ever had.
Yes, probably. Because Jess came into the picture just after.
Yep.
About the same time my kid did, even.
Let's hope she doesn't listen, because that means I also don't remember how long we've been together.
You're married now. The clock started over.
That's true.
It's a different.
6 months. We've been together
different.
6 months.
Yeah, exactly. It's different now.
Yep. But anyways,
So,
as you can
you're
tell,
fine.
People listening at home, you can tell that we are still doing this remotely because this is life. This is the new norm, as much as we hate it.
I hate it so much.
It's super inconvenient, and I feel like it's delayed too because I say something, and then I have to wait for you to respond, and it's not as fluid as I would like it to be. When you're here, we can talk back and forth. It's very, very good. Over the phone,
right.
Over Skype, not good.
No. Every once in a while I go robot, and that's not good either.
No, and it's collectively the internet's fault, not ours.
I should probably figure out a way to record my track on my side, and then I could email that to you instead of having you record it all.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that would be helpful or not.
It would.
And that's not something we need to discuss right now.
Breaking that fourth wall.
But we've done that plenty before. It's fine.
Yeah, that's part of the podcast. It brings everyone in as a team.
Yeah.
Because they're feeling if we're having a conversation about like what's going on behind the scenes, they feel like they're behind the scenes as well. So it's kind of like we're all in this together as a podcasting team. So when they're sitting at home by themselves listening to us.
A consortium, maybe?
Yeah, we're a consortium of friends talking about cars. But only 2 of us talk. The other one listens.
Oh, they talk.
Yeah, they do. And they comment and message directly.
They talk at us. Yep.
They yell at their radios.
Yep.
And I like how last we were like, we're going to keep this lighthearted, but the sole intent was to just also have people scream at their radios, which I also think that this week, same goal. If you're not yelling at the radio or at your iPod or whatever the hell you're listening to, then we failed. So stick around. We're going to have many reasons for you to be mad at least somebody. Maybe us, but somebody.
That's fair. So, before we dive into the opener, I have a very small aside that I want to talk to you about real quick.
Sure.
I promise this will be painless. So, anybody who's known me a long time knows that I am a Scrubs mega fan, the TV show.
Yeah,
Scrubs.
Of course. It's a great show.
I love it. I love it dearly. I have a annual viewing of it. I am currently on like season 3-ish, somewhere between late season 3 or early season 4 of my annual viewing right now. And right after I started my annual viewing, I found out that Zach Braff and Donald Faison, who play JD and Turk, have a podcast that they just started.
What do they talk about?
It's called Fake Doctors, Real Friends, and it's a show by show rewatch of the Scrubs, of the whole thing, and they kind of like give you some of the behind the scenes stories and why they did this and how they did that and who is who, and they've had a couple of other people that have come on and guested as well that were big players in the show, the creator and the girl who plays Elliot and stuff like that. That's not the important part. What I wanted to talk to you about that I found funny in the very first episode of the podcast, Zach Braff was talking about how he had just moved to California, as actors do, and he had bought a cheap car that he needed to buy a cheap car that would just get him through, right?
Yes.
And he bought a 240SX to do that.
Well, yeah, it's the American version, so it'll last. And he didn't try swapping engines. He didn't try doing anything crazy. He just needed it to drive.
No,
and it's a great.
He said
car.
It did him really well.
Of course it did. It's a great car.
But what I think is kind of funny and kind of interesting about that is that, like, Zach Braff's not a car guy in any way, shape, or form, right? He just bought that car as a utility,
yes,
right? And it's kind of funny when you think about that, and you stop and you think back about that car when it was built versus the way it is now. Like, that was never what we do with those cars was never the intention of that vehicle.
Not even a little
bit. It may
bit.
have been kind of sporty and fun, but that was not. It's not like a Miata, you know.
Right. It should have been a little bit more that way, but it wasn't.
Right. It was not built that way. It was not marketed that way, as far as I know. Like, and it's kind of funny that, like, how much that car has changed in the public eye from the time it was originally built to now, to modern day, you know. Like, whereas, you know, now coming across like just a stock plain Jane 240SX that somebody who is not interested in cars would consider buying as a you know, an appliance to get him from A to B reliably, that's not a thing.
No. Because even now, if someone buys it, it's because, like, if they want it to be a clean one, it's because it's a collector item to them, which is really strange that it was never intended that way.
Nobody owns a 240SX by accident.
Not anymore. There might be a few floating around.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, some like old lady bought it like a midlife crisis when it was new. It was like, you know, I want something sporty and fun, right, and then hung on to it. And there's probably like a very small handful of those. But yeah, the rest of them that have them have sought them out.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very few and far between, if they are any, that way. So, I don't know. I just thought it was kind of funny that, like, how much a lot of cars really have changed in the way that people view them from then to now. You know, from when it was originally manufactured to today. Yeah. So, I just thought that was kind of cool. Probably could have been a whole opener if I wanted to put some more thought into it, but I didn't. So they basically for this podcast, they basically just do what they do for the director cut movies, where the director talks about the episode the whole way through. You ever seen that? Well, kind of. So they don't like have it playing while they're doing the podcast. Okay. They watch it and they take notes on the things that happen, and then they just kind of go over it. Okay. And they also, you know, like, they kind of have it split up into sections like we do. And like in the first third of it, they're just kind of them talking and laughing and ha-haing and because apparently Zach and Donald are like really good friends in real life too, which is kind of cool to me. As a Scrubs nerd, that's super awesome. But and then in like the second third of it is them going over that show and talking about some of the funny things that they remembered, or like stuff that came back to the surface when they were watching the show, because it's been 20 years since they recorded the first season. And, they're like 6 or 7 episodes in right now, and then like at the end they always have someone who calls in and gives them a few questions and they answer them. So
yeah, I think it'd be cool to go back and like rewatch things that you did 20 years ago, and then just have all those memories rush back. Because even doing the podcast now, someone will comment like Dusty did this week. He goes, "Yeah, I can't believe Robbie said he'd buy an Audi." I'm like, when the fuck did I say I'd buy an Audi? And I just said it like 3 days ago, and it just took me a decent amount of time to go, "Oh, the time attack car." Okay, but it made no sense to me. I was like, "No, I wouldn't have said that. Why would I have said that?" So just like imagine, sometimes, like even the first couple episodes of our show would be the same thing. It's just like, wow, okay, that's weird.
Sometimes when I have long drives by myself, or when I've had a week with a lot of windshield time and I'm out of other things that I normally listen to, I do go back and listen to some of our really old shows that I remember being fun to record.
Yep.
And dude, it's so funny.
Oh yeah.
We've said some really stupid shit.
That's the best part of the show.
Oh man, it's so good though. Like, that's kind of been the week I've had this week, and I went, for some reason, I don't remember what it was that kind of made this bubble back to the surface, but I was thinking about the first time that we had Hayward Wagner on the show.
Yep.
And he told us the story about him and his friends rushing the flag stand at runoffs, and how like that was his analogy for us, and how funny that was. And I don't know what it was that made me think of that, but I was like, man, I got to go back and listen to that. Right.
Yep.
And so I went back and I listened to that, and I listened to him tell the story about how he learned about who we were by somebody tagging him in a Facebook post. And I still don't know who did it. I would love to know who did it. So if you are the person who did it, shoot me a text or a Facebook message or something. I just want to know. I'm just curious who it was that tagged him and was like, regardless of how you feel about things or whatever, you need to listen to this. And I just want to know who that person was and thank them for sending us on the path that we ended up going down with the SCCA. So, but I don't know, it's kind of fun sometimes to just go back and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that we did that.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Or whatever.
Just looking back. It's crazy how many doors have been opened from this silly little podcast.
Yeah, it's a deal, man. So,
how do you?
Should we get into the opener?
Yeah, you want to open this up? I think Booney from Factory Fabrication would like you to open it up.
Aw, yeah. Longtime listeners know that I have not had the best of luck with daily drivers, and that the Ford Focus that we've had, the 2005 Ford Focus, has been an ongoing saga. I blew an engine up in it a long time ago. I thought it was gone for good. It came back to me with a new engine, and it promptly didn't work after that, and I had to fix a whole bunch of stupid problems, and it's been sitting in my driveway for quite some time. Well, it's funny how the end of the world gives you time to deal with nagging little things like fixing your own vehicles.
Oh, yeah. I have done nothing but yard work for like an entire week. Yeah,
exactly. So this weekend, so the problem that I had with the cars for problem where it's sat right now, prior to this, was that the input speed sensor for the transmission was not talking, and so it would shift from first into second and into third, but it wouldn't go into overdrive or fourth gear. However, it's labeled overdrive. I don't really understand all that automatic transmission voodoo, but it wouldn't go into that. And so, even doing 60 miles an hour, it's like cranking along at 3,800 RPM, and I'm like, well, that's not gonna work.
No, that's not
and
good.
I'm sure whatever's causing it's definitely not good on the transmission either. And it's no 4L60E, but I don't need that in my life because I already have one of those as well.
Me too.
And so so it just kind of sat, and I had before the winter hit, before it got cold, I had replaced the input speed sensor, and that had not fixed the problem. And then it got cold, and I just was like, oh, I'm not going to work on this. And my intention was always to bring it to a mechanic, but lack of time, lack of funds, lack of ambition just never got around to doing that. And so last weekend on Saturday, I was like, I had a bunch because I had accidentally taken out apparently there's two speed sensors on that. I don't know if it's an input and an output speed sensor or what, but there are two, and I had accidentally removed the wrong one previously, and when I put it back in there, I didn't get it seated properly, and so I was like, well, maybe it's just that easy, that I did have a bad speed sensor. I replaced the input speed sensor with a new one, but I didn't get it seated all the way. And so let's try that first before I take this to a mechanic. And he's just like, well, you're a fucking moron, because all I had to do was tap this thing to the top with the head of a screwdriver and put the bolt in it a little tighter, and it was ready to go. And I'm like, okay, well, so I tore down to it because, of course, it's underneath the battery box and a whole bunch of wiring harness connectors and stuff. So I tore down to it and had come to the decision that I definitely did not get it seated all the way down in there correctly because it's got a little O-ring seal on it, and I think it was just sitting on the O-ring and not actually seated all the way into it. So, I took the bolt out and I tapped it down in there with a couple light hits of a hammer on top of a socket with some extensions just to, pop that bad boy all the way, and nothing crazy.
No, just to get
a little bit of extra force. Because you can't really reach down in there and push on it. It's very inconveniently buried.
Gotcha.
And once I got that done, I had at least got it back to acting, because when I replaced the input speed sensor, I actually had made it worse. Then it wouldn't shift at all. It was in first gear, and it wouldn't shift out of first gear, and that was just it. And I was like, well, sweet. I've made this worse instead of better. Welcome to my life. And so by verifying that I actually got it seated, it turns out I was able to at least get it back to square one where it wasn't working, but at least it wasn't working worse than what it was when I started.
You could drive it.
It would shift. It would shift from first to second to third. It just wouldn't go into overdrive. Great, fine, whatever.
Yep.
So Monday I had to take some time off to take my kid to some dentist appointments and stuff like that, and which are really hard to get this time of.
Oh yeah.
Stands, but. We were able to get it done.
That's awesome.
And so I was home from work anyway, and so I was like, well, let's just take this thing to the mechanic. And I took it to one I've dealt with before, and I was like, look, I don't know exactly what's wrong with this thing. I realize that at this point in time that I am going to be paying you hourly, and that this could turn into a real ordeal. And this car, if I'm lucky, is worth $1,000 in running condition. So I don't want $1,000 bill to fix this thing. So just kind of keep that in mind, but see what we can figure out, and don't fix anything real without checking with me first. Yeah, sure, we can do that. That's fine. That's great. Super. So they call me back the next day, and they're like, yep, fixed it.
You're good to go.
Okay. What was it? And they're like, well, we found a wire that was pinched. Apparently, when my stepfather-in-law put the new engine in there, he pinched a couple of wires between the block and the bell housing.
I've done that.
And then tightened it all together. And they were still pinched in there, and that was enough to cause those problems. All right, sweet. They fixed that. And then I went to pick it up, and I figured, well, this is probably going to be, this hour or two of shop labor and whatnot, it's probably gonna be $250 or something around then. And the guy rings me up. He's like $58.85. And what? Seriously? Like this? I've been driving this fucking 15 mile to the gallon Blazer for a year with this Focus sitting in my driveway, over $60 worth of bullshit.
Oh man.
Like that's it? I've spent hundreds of dollars extra in gas, over $60 on me just not taking the time to take it to somebody or look at it a little closer myself. God damn it.
That's so frustrating, but it's so easy to do though. I did that to the 240 years ago. I don't know what engine it was. I don't think it was the LS. No, it definitely wasn't the LS. It was at least one of the SR20s. Yeah, it had to be one of the SR20s because it was when I put one of the transmissions back in, I pinched one of those sensors, probably a speed sensor or something like that. Same thing, caught it between the bell housing and just the corner of it. And we're talking like it caught the edge and there was maybe an inch of wire total that got pinched.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is the same situation.
And it was to the point where I'm just like, well, the wires are long enough that I'm just going to fucking cut it and splice them. And sure enough, that's what I did, because I was not about to completely disconnect the transmission again, or at least, loosen it up enough to get the wires out, because it would take me way longer to undo all the bolts than it was just to snip, solder, done. And it worked. I mean, there's no problem. Yeah. That wasn't the problem with the engine and all the other stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I assumed all they had to do was loosen a few bolts, get it out, and half hour later, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Has it been running like a dream?
Unfortunately, I don't think that my diabolical is over. Because while it does shift into all of the gears like it should, I did drive it to work today, and the overdrive off light does still flash, which is what it was doing before. But at least it goes into overdrive.
Does it shift?
And so basically that overdrive off light, from what I've read online, is essentially your check engine light for your transmission.
Okay.
And when I took the wrong speed sensor out, I poured a ton of fluid on my driveway unsuspectingly, because that particular sensor is in fluid, whereas the input speed sensor is on the top of the transmission, and so it's not in fluid as it were.
Yes.
Whereas the secondary one's on the back lower side, and so when you take it out, you've essentially removed the drain plug.
Oh, great.
And so I was able to stop that real quick by shoving that back in there. But I was definitely not prepared for that to happen, and so I dumped a couple quarts of transmission fluid all over my driveway.
Yep.
And I know I put some back in there, but I'm kind of hoping that I just didn't put enough back in there.
With an automatic, that'll definitely be, if you're not right, it'll definitely give you issues. So let's hope that's all it is.
When I got home today, it was raining, and I didn't feel like checking the transmission fluid. So I'll probably, one day when it's not raining, I'll run around the block a little bit and then check it, because, you got to check them after you use them, opposite of oil. So hopefully I can just throw I think I put like a quart and a half back in there, but maybe I just didn't put enough in there.
Yeah, because it needs the optimal amount of fluid to even function.
Right, because that fluid is what creates pressure across places. And,
and the wizard inside needs the wizard or whatever.
Knows where to put the gears and stuff.
Exactly. He needs the right amount of fluid, because if it's too low, he gets confused. And that's how automatic transmissions work.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. So let's hope that's that simple.
That would be awesome.
It's probably not, though.
Actually, it probably is. It'll cost you $23, and you just got to do it.
I really desperately hope that it is that simple. I guess we'll find out, man. I don't know.
It'd be great to have that just be something silly.
But that means that now that is one less vehicle between the end of my driveway and my Omni. So that's good.
Do you still have the van?
And then the van, so local people will know this. If you listen to the radio around here, there's always this teen challenge of the Midlands or teen and adult challenge of the Midlands or something like that,
Yes.
which I think is
Of Iowa.
is some sort of I think
Teen
they call
Challenge
it
of
the
Iowa,
Midlands.
I thought.
I
Yeah,
don't
whatever. It's
know.
not
They may
important.
have changed it. I don't know. They changed their name. They recently added the word adult in there too. So,
Yep.
but it's like I think it's a rehab center for maybe drug and alcohol addiction or something along those lines.
I think so, yes.
I know it's like a place where people can go to like get back on their feet when they've had a tough go at it, and I think it's specific to addiction issues, which
That was my understanding, at least.
definitely something I would never wish on my worst enemy. And one of the things that they're always advertising on the radio is that they'll take cars running or not. And I was like, man, this thing, like, I'm gonna have the junkyard's gonna come and get it. Right, and then they're going to take the tow fee right off the top, and I'm going to get $3 back.
Yep.
And like, it's not even worth my time. And this place, they'll come and they'll pick it up for you, running or not, and they'll haul it away for free, and they'll do whatever it is they do with it, and then they'll give you a receipt that's tax deductible.
Yes.
Not that I really care about that.
No, but it's nice to
you
have.
know. But maybe it's nice to have, and at the end of the day, however they recycle those or sell them or whatever it is they do with them, they're going to get more out of the money that they're going to get from it than I ever would, and it makes me feel a little better about myself, and I can tell myself that I've helped somebody maybe continue down the path of recovery or whatever it is, and they're going to get it out of my driveway the 29th.
Oh yeah.
That'll be gone.
So then
then the only thing between the end of the driveway and the Omni at that point is the S10, and it just needs to be pushed a little farther to the left so it's in front of the other garage stall, and then it's ready to go.
Hell yeah.
So
There's a few things here on the Omni, and you're good to go.
I am still not pulling the trigger on buying the things for that yet,
No.
though. Work is kind of slowing down a little bit.
Oh.
Which scares me.
Everything's uncertain at this point.
I don't think I'm going to get laid off, and I would, to me, a slow week is like, oh, I only got 40 this week,
Right.
It's not like it's the end of the world and I'll be able to pay my bills and all that stuff, but I'm still not quite there. And, if I did end up getting sick or something, like, who knows? So I'm not going to throw a couple $100 at the Omni, even though it literally is just that yet.
I gotcha.
I'm going to play it safe. If I have it, I won't need it. That's what I keep telling myself. If I have the money in my bank account, I won't need it for that.
Right.
I'm not going to get sick.
The second you spend it, man.
Money.
Yep.
The second I spend it, I'm going to be out of work for a month and trying not to die in the hospital.
Yep.
So
that's how it goes.
Just sitting on it.
I get it.
So I have all the parts in a shopping cart on 2 different websites.
Yep.
Ready to go. I just gotta hit buy, and I'm not quite there yet.
No. Let's hope that you get there real soon. That'd be awesome.
I hope that the world will allow me to do such, but we'll see how it goes. So anyway, that's about all I got.
So that was brought to you by Factory Fabrication. Booney has been wanting you to get the Omni runner for quite some time, so I'm sure he's happy to hear that you're that close.
Still bugging me about it.
Well, we don't have an autocross that we can go to quite yet, but if the world can turn around in just a little bit, we might be able to real soon, and that's when then he will start bugging you again.
That's fair.
And that's when you'll be bugging yourself, though, because that's when you'll want it out. Whereas now you're
right.
There's no event. There's really no motivation to go above and beyond to get it running, which I get.
Well, I would like to be able to just drive it, but
oh yeah,
not running out of money and paying my bills is more important than the joy of driving it up and down a relatively straight road because we live in Iowa.
Right. But anyways.
Let's do this topic, Robbie,
I'm
because
excited.
this shit's going to take a while.
Yeah, I'm excited. So Adam and I were brainstorming ideas on what we wanted to do for a show, and I threw out a couple ideas, and then I threw out this one, and this is unpopular opinions. So it's a combination of unpopular opinions that I have, opinions that Adam has that he doesn't believe that everyone else agrees with, and then we asked our group, the consortium, unpopular opinions that they have. And let me tell you, there's a reason
They have a few.
They have plenty. And there's a reason that they're unpopular. Because some of them are bad. And we'll get there. Don't you worry.
I just want to note, when I made the post on the group, I had typed most of it out, and I was just kind of thinking about it. And I went back in towards the middle, and I added the word automotive between unpopular and opinions because I know where this group goes, and that's not what I was after.
They stayed on topic pretty
proud.
well.
I'm so proud.
They
did very well, stayed on topic. I think there might be a couple in here that are trolling to some extent.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's just fine.
Yep, I think I copied all of them down. I might have dropped a couple off, and I didn't include any replies on my copy and paste job that I did. So we'll read through them. If you have them in front of you, we can talk about replies if you got them. Do you want to do ours first or want to do ours last? How do you want to do that?
I don't care.
Me neither. We just knock
do you want to knock them out?
Knock ours out and then just go through the group and then...
I only have two, like I said, but before we started the show, I just have two. They're pretty simple. One of them I don't think you're going to have any opinion on, and the other one I think you're going to think I'm wrong, and that's fine.
Yeah, I have 14.
That's a crazy number. You want to do all of those, or you want to hold some of those back for a later show?
No, we'll do it all now.
You want to do all 14 of them?
Hell yeah. We don't have to discuss. Okay. Some of these are beat to death, so we'll glance right over them.
Okay, well, maybe that was why I didn't have as many.
Yes.
Is because I wanted things that I know I'm... Yeah, that maybe we hadn't talked about in the show in the past.
No, I started the list thinking that we weren't going to get a lot of input, and then with 10 minutes of your post, I was like, oh, yeah, I can stop that list right now.
There's 113 comments. Now, granted, there's a decent number of replies and remarks to most of these.
Yes,
but 113. That's crazy.
Of opinions that they believe they have that are unpopular to the general public, or at least the rest of the car people.
Right, to the automotive public.
Yep. So we're probably not going to discuss these all at length. My goal is to get through them all, but I don't want to also sit here and just list shit off all night. So
for 4 hours.
Exactly. So I think if we got something to say about them, we'll talk about it a little bit, argue if we have to, then come to the conclusion that we can't agree and move on. Or we can both go, okay, yeah.
Why don't you hit me with a few of yours, and then I'll throw mine in the middle, and then we'll finish yours out and go to the group.
Okay. We'll start mine off with the C7 Corvette is better than the C8.
I don't have enough facts to form that opinion.
And by better, I just mean my opinion. Like I if someone lined those two cars up in front of me, I don't want to hear about stats. I don't want to hear about anything. I just look at it and go, I want the C7. I want the ZR1 C7, and that's the car I want. I don't care what the performance numbers are. I don't care what. I don't care about the mid-engine. I don't know why. It's a beautiful car. It's great in every way. I look at it and go, I'd still rather have the C7.
I think when you give me a wide body mid-engine car, a wide body C8, because like all the Corvette or the last couple gens of Corvettes, the base models are narrow bodies, and the Z06s and the ZR1s and the ZL1s or whatever are wide body.
Yes.
I think when you give me that with the C8, there's no way that I'm going to walk away from that.
Yeah, I'm curious where they're going to go when it gets to the higher levels, and maybe my opinion will change completely.
I know when I look at the race car.
Yep.
Like, oh man. Oh man, dude. That's good stuff.
It's great stuff. For some reason, I still like the front engine car. I thought
doesn't
they
surprise me.
I thought they knocked it out of the park with that one. And I usually like mid-engine, rear-engine cars. So anyways,
Okay.
I'm sure that's going to get some people that are going to comment about that right away.
There's a lot of people who really don't like the new C8.
I don't.
So
that surprises me too because there's really no reason to dislike it.
there's too many people. Oh, it looks like a Ferrari.
Yeah, it's a mid-engine for sports car.
There's a lot of yes. So McLarens and Ferraris,
Yeah.
and I mean that's just kind of what it is. So sorry.
Yep. This one you will agree with me on. Minivans are better than crossovers.
Thank you. I just think that that's the general public.
Yeah, I don't think with our group, I don't think that's going to be an unpopular opinion. I think it's unpopular to the masses. For some reason, minivans are uncool. You almost have to drive them ironically or be very, very, very into it. But
I kind of think that car people are slowly starting to hate crossovers more.
Yeah.
And that's a movement I can get behind.
Because I never hated them. Like, I really liked my RAV4, and the Rogue was the ultimate compromise for me. But even then, I've never been happy with it. And I've definitely gone the other direction as I've gotten older. It was just like, well, I can have my truck for the truck things, and then for the other things, I can have ridiculous, like, toys. So, like, right now, I'm driving the Z every day. It's nice out. And then the truck is just for
10 years ago, I could never imagine owning a minivan.
Right.
So,
but it's so fucking useful.
we evolve as human beings, Robbie. It happens.
Priorities change,
It's
man.
fine. I'm not
going
to hold that against you.
No, it
I
happens.
could, but I'm not gonna.
I don't have to compromise as much as I used to when I was younger. When I was younger, I had to compromise way more, and now I don't have to compromise as much. I'm in a very great place in my life where I can pick and choose and make shit work. Where it's like I got my pickup, and now I can also have like a really ridiculous daily driver. So like I have switched to you when it comes to wanting a manual transmission to and from work car.
Right.
But at the same time, you can't take my truck away. I need that.
The thing you say about that, like, where you don't have to make as many compromises, that reminds me of our friends over at Apex Adjacent Podcast. Ian, he dailies, despite having children, a two-door R32 Golf, so the VR6 four-wheel drive Mark IV Golf.
Is that the one I crushed last week?
Yes, it's the one you had on your Golf Subaru Evo list.
Okay.
That's what he daily drives. And despite the fact that he has two small children and it just does not work well for carrying the children. And what he says is that it is less difficult than he is stubborn. And I feel like that's a motto for my life.
I get that completely.
There's a lot of people who are like, yep, I get that.
Oh, yeah.
That is less difficult than I am stubborn. So,
yeah.
What's next?
Good on him. Okay. This one might... No, wait. The next one will. I'm going to say that 200 to 300 horsepower is more than enough to have fun with, especially when starting racing.
Way more than enough.
You don't... Even with my car above 300, you don't need 300, especially when you're getting started. You don't need the 600 horsepower Corvette to get started in racing or time attack or autocross or anything.
I think if I look as I've kind of stood in the background and watched people I know's progression through track day things, or like I've met some older people.
Yep.
It seems like you start out with like your cheap entry level low horsepower car, right? And you're like, man, this is great, but it needs more power, right? And you just ramp up and you're like, holy shit, this 600 horsepower shit is so difficult and frustrating, and my car is unreliable, and I'm not having any more fun in it than I had when it had 200 horsepower, and they go back to that.
Yeah, that seems to be a pretty common progression, is that either you started way higher than you needed to, or you worked your way up and then you got sick of that life and then moved back down to having fun.
Right. Because a 200 horsepower Honda or a 150 horsepower Miata is more fun on the track than a broken 600 horsepower Corvette in the paddock.
Yes.
So
that, when you make a mistake, it's much less expensive. Much less expensive when it's only a 100 horsepower car. Because at 500 horsepower, you hit that wall way harder.
I'm getting a text message right now.
Tell them to go away.
No, I mean, like, as a certain person is listening to this podcast and he feels personally attacked by the statements we've just made.
I'm trying to think.
I'm getting that text message right now.
That could be one of like 7 people I'm thinking of. And this wasn't.
Well, the one that's specific is one of the guys you race with.
Hi, Dalton. I wasn't aiming this at him at all. I really wasn't.
Yeah, you're not wrong though. I've told him for years and years, because he started out in a 5th gen 1LE and then he moved to the Vet, and I'm like, dude, just buy a Miata.
Yeah,
you have more fun with it. Well, I mean, he was always scared to even take it out, and now he's finally gotten accustomed to it, and he's doing well with it.
He's doing very well.
There is still that like, God damn, this LS7, if I blow it up, it's going to cost me $15,000 or something stupid, And so,
well, I've had it too. Like just with the LS swap, it's like, well, how much horsepower you got? It's like just above 300. Oh,
yeah, like probably less than the SR20 you were trying to build.
Trying to, yes. The one that I had, no.
Right, but the one you were attempting to get running. That probably was more like a 400 horsepower motor.
It should have been in the same ballpark, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But this one runs. All right, my next one. I think that 700 horsepower or more cars that are like in the less than $100,000 range, like that are readily available, are irresponsible. I think that like your Red Eye or basically these
even just a Hellcat.
Yeah, these cars that are built for the masses that have 700 horsepower, I feel like that's an irresponsible thing to do. And I know that I'm fairly much alone on that soapbox.
I've long believed that that cars like that in the hands of the average people are bad for automotive enthusiasts like us.
Oh, yeah.
Because we get lumped in with them.
Yeah, every time they wrap one of those around a pole.
Everyone just assumes we're hoodlums, right? Like, that's why I don't like the fact that Street Outlaws is as popular as it is because everyone just assumes when I tell them I like racing, that's what they think.
Oh, you're street racing. You got a brand new Mustang or Charger, Challenger.
Yeah, and that's not what I want to do. I'm quite the opposite of that. I feel I dislike it as much as the average person, and so I'm totally in agreement with you. The cars are wildly unnecessary, and they are absolutely irresponsible.
Yeah, I think it's too easy and too cheap to get high horsepower cars. Like it's hard to put a dollar on it. It really is, and I don't mean to. But like in my eyes, you need to earn your way to that type of power. Because if someone that just retired and now has money, just like from their 401k that they're looking to spend, my last hurrah as an adult, before I really retire, and they go out and buy a 700 horsepower Challenger and then wrap it around a fucking pole, you shouldn't have been in that car in the first place.
I feel the same way about cars with a, let's say, 150 mile an hour or higher top speed.
For the streets?
Regardless of, any manufacturer can make, like McLaren builds these wild cars and they'll do 220 miles an hour or whatever it is they do, 201, whatever.
Right.
And they say like, oh, we build these cars and they go and they can do this, but we don't build them so people can do that on the street. Well, that's not what a majority of the ownership of your car does with that. They don't take it to a track day and see how fast they'll do down the back straight at Road Atlanta. They try to rip down Main Street with it and show off to underage chicks.
That, or they go to Cars and Coffee and let it sit, and they never take it out of third gear.
I would much prefer that person.
Yes, because that person's not going to get the general population.
That person's not ruining the general public's opinion of everybody else,
right?
Who likes cars.
Yes,
but the guy who thinks he needs to, go out in the deserted interstates during this coronavirus deal and top out his $200,000 Ferrari or McLaren or Lamborghini or whatever, that guy's not doing anybody any good.
Right.
I don't like it.
Adam, you and I are agreeing way too much on this. This is supposed to be unpopular opinions. You and I are supposed to argue.
I got a few. Don't worry.
Okay, good. I got a couple more, then we'll switch over to yours. Driving cars without driver aids is better.
There's something I don't agree with.
So
better how?
In my opinion, it's a better experience. I don't want to have ABS. I don't want to have traction control. I don't want to have stability control. I want me in the car. I want the braking to be my threshold braking, not what the car and the computer are doing. I don't want to drive a computer.
I want to build the best mousetrap.
Yep.
I want the fastest that my car can be, and if that means using modern day computers to help me be the best that I can be, that's perfectly fine by me.
No, that's the car driving itself.
Controls, ABSs,
polar opposite,
all that stuff. DCTs. Let's do this shit.
Fuck no. That's the who can engineer the fastest car. When I want to know, I want who has the best driver. I don't care about any of the other shit, which is funny because
the
I'm
time
the engineer.
attack is not for you.
Nope, it's not. I can tell you that right now. I believe that.
Should have built a spec Miata.
Just do a spec Z.
Yeah, spec vet.
Yeah,
spec all kinds.
There's
of stuff.
All sorts of specs.
There's plenty of classes out there for you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm all about that. I am not about all the computer can be.
Yeah. It still takes a driver.
Absolutely. Well, it takes a lot less of a driver, in my opinion.
I bet that if you put you in a car with all those things and you put Tom O'Gorman in that same car, Tom O'Gorman's still going to go faster.
Well, no shit. He's a better driver.
Exactly.
But I guarantee I could go faster using a car with all that extra crap than if it was just me in the car.
Well, isn't that a good thing, though?
If all you care about is lap times, then sure.
Well, this is Time Attack.
It's not. No, it is not just Time Attack. This is not a Time Attack podcast. This is driving. I'm talking about driving.
But that's what I want to do. Is I want to do Time Attack stuff. I just want to go as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah.
So I'm about driver aids. I'm fine with them.
No, I'm the opposite. Driver aids suck. All right, you'll disagree with me on this. Hot hatches are overrated.
Oh, hot hatches are the best market or the best genre of car on the market, Robbie. You're wrong.
Hell no. It's the most overrated genre.
That is the compromise I'm willing to make. Crossover, that's not a compromise. That's a failure on your part. Hot hatch, absolutely a compromise.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge compromise. You're inconveniencing yourself for like a little extra horsepower and I'm not saying they're not fun because they are fun, but I still think like the cult following that they have doesn't make sense to me.
I love them,
and that's exactly where we're going to have to end it because we will never agree on that one.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try,
and that's why mine's
There's no point.
No, and I won't sway on it.
I think I could get you behind driver aids before I'm going to get you to be behind hot hatches or wagons.
Driver aids in different in specific reasonings, sure, but in general, no. No.
What's next?
High horsepower luxury.
Should I hop in here?
No, I got two more that we've already beat to death, and we'll knock them out real quick, and then you can go.
Okay.
High horsepower luxury sedans are pointless. We kind of talked about like having like again the 200-mile-an-hour car for the streets pointless.
Yeah.
And then we beat this one to death. The Ferrari F50 is better than the F40.
I don't understand it, Robbie. This doesn't make any sense to me, Robbie.
I don't care how unpopular it is. I will never look at the F40 and go, "Yep, that's the one. That's the one I want."
Oh,
no, it's
God,
the 50.
It's such a good car.
The 50 is so much better. It's better looking. It's better sounding. I want that one.
It probably is better sounding. I will grant you that one. How about that?
You know how many dry raids they both have? Minimal.
I think that the F50 has an automatic dual clutch transmission.
We'll get to that later.
I'm pretty sure it's not a manual.
I thought it was.
The F40.
No, the F50 is gated.
I could have swore the F50
no,
had that
it's got a
F1 transmission bullshit in it.
I thought it. Well, yeah, but I thought it was still a gated. Hold on, now I want to know.
I don't think it is.
I thought it was.
While you look that up, I will.
Yes,
I'll go with my first one. How about that?
Deal.
I enjoy autocross course working.
Yeah, I would say that's unpopular.
Oh, it's super unpopular. That is
because everyone bitches.
An overwhelming majority of people who don't autocross, that's their primary reason against it.
Yes. They complain because they have to stand in the parking lot and grab cones, which I think is more than fair to do, because then everyone's helping. It's a team thing, and everyone's helping.
I actually really enjoy it for a couple of reasons. Reason number one, at the end of the day, that's just like spectating motorsports, and I enjoy spectating of just about any form of racing. Secondly, I like the opportunity to watch drivers who I think are better than me.
Yes.
And see how they are handling certain points on the track that I am not sure how to handle. It gives me the opportunity to kind of like, oh, okay, I see what he's doing there. I kind of get that. Okay, I understand that, and it gives me a chance to like listen to when he's on his gas, what he's doing with his inputs, he or she is doing with their inputs. It gives me, like, oh, okay, that's where this person is doing their, turn in or, okay, that's an interesting approach to that slalom. And, it gives me the opportunity to sit back and think about my driving and compare it to the other people who I think that like my car is capable of keeping up with their car if the driver was as good as they are. And, like gives me the opportunity to hopefully improve for the next time I go out. And, that seems like a good thing. If you use it in that capacity, people just have a bad attitude about it.
Yeah.
So I actually really like it.
Yeah,
it's never been like, oh God, I have to coursework this one again. I realize that there's a handful of autocross groups out there that you don't have to coursework on, and I'm not like, oh, coursework or die. I won't go to the local NCCC Corvette Club because I don't get to coursework. I'm not that way about it.
No.
But I certainly don't think it's a reason not to go to an SCCA event and enjoy time with my car and friends, hopefully.
Yeah, no, it's a silly reason not to go. And I do think it's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think you're right.
Oh, so many people hate it. So many people hate it.
Which is silly because it's not like it's anything strenuous or ridiculous. It's just helpful for everybody.
It's just not hard. It's not like they're asking you to do a bunch of work or whatever.
No.
It's just
be there and be helpful. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
Think of somebody beside yourself.
You know what? And I've had the opportunity to meet new people when I've done courseworking,
you're usually sitting
and that's fun too.
Yeah, you're chatting with people that you clearly have an interest in the same shit, and you can start talking about what your common interests, and you actually make friends that way. And that's coming from somebody that doesn't like to make friends.
Right. It's a good icebreaker.
Yes.
So, I mean, obviously your first job is to shag cones and pay attention to those things, and then all that other stuff comes after. So, pay attention. But I don't mind it. I like it.
No, I'm right
That's
there with
my
you.
controversial opinion.
Okay.
So, my other one, which I don't think you're going to really care about that much, and I know I'm going to trip some triggers here.
Good.
I like roll racing.
I have nothing against roller racing. I don't have
There
anything.
are a ton of people who don't like roll racing, and I think it's kind of cool.
I kind of enjoyed watching it.
Like it.
They did it.
I realize that like it's like street racing evolved. I realize that it kind of goes against my stance on street racing.
Yeah, you're doing it at a track.
I still kind of like it. I think it's kind of cool to watch. I enjoy seeing that stuff, and I understand that not all cars do well from a standing start, and that some people aren't willing to do what it takes to get crazy horsepower Lamborghinis and Vipers and Vets and whatever to work well on a drag strip, and that this is a good way to put those silly power, or to put that silly power to use. And despite the fact that I don't really think that people need access to 700 horsepower cars from the factory, I still enjoy obscene amounts of horsepower in the right situation.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's cool. I like roll racing. I enjoy watching the 1320 video recaps of it, and I'll bet you that all of those guys who hate on roll racing, deep down inside, when they see it pop up on their Facebook feed, they stop and watch it too.
Yeah, I stopped and watched last time we were at RPM, which is like almost 2 years ago, when we did time trials Saturday and Sunday, but Friday night they did roll racing. I watched the whole time.
Yep,
it was fun. I didn't go
cool,
do it. I just watched. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's not something I need to participate in. I don't own a car that's even kind of that idea, but
right.
It's still fun to watch. It's I think it's a neat concept.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm sitting,
I don't mind it.
If I'm sitting there watching and someone's just like, "Hey, you want to run them?" Sure, I don't give a shit. Got nothing to lose.
Yeah. Well, the Omni has been on a drag strip since I've owned it, so
yes, it has.
Josh and I probably ran the slowest passes of the night, but I'll bet our race was one of the closest.
And if you're laughing and smiling the whole time, then good enough.
Oh, we talked so much trash when we were before and after. Oh, it was great.
That was perfect. So
much fun. It was a great night. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So,
okay,
those are the two that I had that that came to my mind right off the top of my head. Like, oh yeah, these are the things I need to talk about. So,
okay,
that's what I got.
By the way, you're wrong about the F50. It has the standard gated shifter.
Okay, well, I'm happy to be wrong about that.
Good, me too. I would have been quite disappointed had I been completely wrong on that.
All right, now I'm kind of sad actually, because that would have been interesting to see you try and logic your way through.
I wouldn't have been able to on that one detail, but everything else I'm all for. You and I will 100% agree, and I think it's not an unpopular opinion for the listeners of the show, but for the population of America, this is an unpopular opinion. Driver's license tests should be difficult. Driving should require extensive training, and everyone should have to repeat a practical driving skill test every few years to renew their license in America.
I think that this is on this list from somebody else as well.
Yes.
And I 150% can get behind that.
Yeah, it should be hard to get a driver's license. It should be taken seriously, and driving should be a privilege, not a right. And I understand
absolutely.
And I'm sure the entire group's going to sit back and go, "Yeah, of course." But if I would say that in a group full of, let's just say, everybody's coworkers, our group would be the only one that would agree with that.
If you brought that up around the water cooler, people would lose their minds.
Yep. I mean, and you could bring out all the points and the stats and all the reasoning behind it, and they'll look and go, yeah, okay. But you can't do that. I mean,
think of all the millions and millions and billions of dollars that we as a society are spending to try and figure out how to make driverless cars. When if we just pulled our heads out of our asses and did a little bit better behind the wheel, it wouldn't be an issue.
Right. If people
because I realize that people want it as a convenience, but one of the things that are so stressed about driverless cars is the safety.
Right, and we could be safer.
Right.
And I had it on here and I kind of left it off. It was just like, the fact that like getting a DUI seems like was a rite of passage for a lot of people. That's a fucked up thing in our culture. You know what I mean?
I think that might be a small town Iowa thing.
But still, it's the fact that it's a thing, and that like a lot of people listening are going to go, yeah, that was kind of a thing. I can think of 10 people that have DUIs. If you go to like Switzerland if you go to Switzerland or like Sweden and stuff, those 10 people would be executed. They take it very fucking seriously. Driving is a privilege. Driving drunk, you deserve to be penalized. Not just financially. And we look at driving as a way for the government to make a shitload of money by tickets, whatever. It's just financial. Like, you never change the behavior. No one's ever changing the way they drive in a better way. It's just a way to avoid the cops. So that's my unpopular opinion. Probably not in this group, but it would definitely be unpopular if I brought it up at work.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Unpopular opinion, number 1,000,000. Motorsports should be fun, challenging, and inclusive, not 100% competitive. And I wholeheartedly believe that this is why the sport is trying to come back, in my opinion. It's because it was too competitive at an amateur level. It shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be competitive at a local autocross
first, and everything else
second.
It should be secondary.
Yes. If I go to a local autocross, I should be welcomed. I should be shown the ropes. If I want to try time trials, it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be an act of Congress to get me into my first wheel-to-wheel race. And I shouldn't have to compete with every single person there on an unhealthy level. We should be able to compete in a healthy way so that, like, if you do well, great. If you're having struggles and you're, like, wrenching on your car and trying to get back together, the guy next to you is going to hand you a wrench. Not like, his nut is 2/10 too big, protest. Some bullshit like that. That's what kills the sport.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting real soapboxy here.
Yeah. I agree that it should be fun first and foremost, but I also think that it's important just to pick like one small bit out of your soapbox there, and I think it's important that that people still be watching their fellow competitors and protesting as needed.
Oh, absolutely. If someone's cheating, fuck yeah, protest.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't protest or that you shouldn't be following the rules, or like if someone doesn't follow the rules, don't call them out. Definitely do that. Like that's my point. It shouldn't be. But yeah, you shouldn't be trying to pull a fast one on the guy you're competing with all the time.
The one thing I've said before about this, and I will say it again, if you believe that you need to protest somebody, do it before, not after your race. Because if you see something and you're like, if I lose to that guy, I'm going to protest, that's the wrong attitude.
Yep. Yeah, if your position determines whether or not you protest, then it never should have been a protest in the first place.
Yep. Protest first before you go out on track. Bring it up. Use the proper channels. Don't use it as an opportunity to get the upper hand if you lose.
Right. No, and I think that's what Grid Life I think is doing really well. I'd like to think that our Time Trials group is doing really well with that. Whereas like everyone wants to compete with each other and beat each other, but at the end of the day, if something breaks on my car, the rest of the guys in their group are like, all right, how can we fix this? Like when I spun that bearing, they were brainstorming ideas on how to swap those bearings out at the track. I'm like, guys, I'm going home. We don't have to try. It's fine. I'll be at the next event. But like that,
Yeah.
that's the type of attitude it should be. Like you get your car fixed. If something's wrong and you don't have to fix something on your car, help the guy that's next to you. Like make it so that everyone wants to be around the people that are at the track, and the sport's just gonna flourish. All right, soapbox.
Yep.
Off.
Okay.
This might ruffle feathers. Your car is at least 10 times less cool to me if the bank holds the title.
I don't know that I agree with that.
If someone shows up to Cars and Coffee with the brand new McLaren and they're paying $1,500 a month in payments and they're still living in an apartment, I could give a flying fuck about their car.
Nah, I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, to me it's going to a dick measuring contest and then stretching it real far, saying, "See, 8.5 inches, dude. Just let go of your hand."
If you can make the payments and still stay on top of everything else, kudos to you.
Yeah, no.
To me, I would rather see somebody buying a car, because I'd rather see someone who buys the car with some help from the bank, but then enjoys the car than someone who buys it outright and parks it in their garage.
Well, I won't disagree with using it versus collecting it.
So, I don't know. That doesn't bother me, I guess.
No, I guess I don't know. I always have a thing against buying a car that you can't afford and then just using it as a reason to flex. Like if you're showing off on a car that you barely made any payment on, you're like, check out my brand new car. Like, yeah, no, dude. No.
That doesn't bother me.
Okay. We kind of talked about this when we were talking about the driver's licensing, and I'm saying that modern cars are too safe. I think that people don't respect what driving is, and they know that the car is going to save them, or that they plan on the car being so safe that they could just wrap it around a pole and walk away being fine. Which I think completely you lose the respect for the danger that is driving. Which means you're going to pick up that phone and text, and you're going to fuck around with the radio or modify your entertainment system so that you can play games while you're driving, shit like that.
Yeah. I guess I don't have a problem with striving to make cars safe within a certain reason or a certain limit. But, and I don't know that we've gone too far.
No.
But I can.
But when you're designing a car and part of the body panels, part of the testing for it is how little damage it does to a pedestrian, that's when you've gone too far.
Yeah, I feel less
when
strongly about pedestrian safety than I do about passenger and occupant safety.
Agreed. And if you're making it so that you could hit a pedestrian at 25 miles an hour and have them walk away without any sort of problems, that's when I think you've gone too far, because it's not realistic and not possible to actually build a functioning car that way.
No, not really. What's next?
Underglow is...
You got any others?
Yeah, 2 more. Underglow is fun and never went out of style.
It totally went out of style.
Nope.
It's totally back in style.
It never left.
It fell out of favor.
It did, but to me it never did. It shouldn't.
Well, that's fine.
It should have been here the whole time. And flappy paddle gearboxes are overrated.
They don't bother me. That goes back to my driver aid argument.
Yep. And I want to see the shifter. I don't want paddles. about the experience, not about shaving off the fraction of a second because it's designed differently. All right, we can do the listeners' opinions, and you and I can agree if they're popular or not. There's a few in here that they're absolutely unpopular.
Yeah.
They're unpopular for a reason.
Yeah. We'll go through here.
All right, E-Man. His unpopular opinion is that the non-turbo turbo Dodges are better than the turbo Dodges.
I think that he's trolling me.
Oh, yeah.
But also, we said opinions, not facts. So, I don't know. He must have gotten confused.
So, the turbo Dodges is that... No, the non-turbo Dodges would be like the Omni and shit?
Would be like my Omni.
Yeah. And then what would be the turbo Dodges?
Because you could get turboed Omnis.
Oh.
He's talking about cars, or because you guys used to make fun of me all the time because people just call them turbo Dodges. It's just what they call them.
Yeah.
It's not my choice. I didn't make this up. I just have to deal with it. But just because it is called a turbo Dodge apparently doesn't mean it has to be turboed. And so he's saying the ones that are not turboed are cooler than the ones that were. So like my Omni being naturally aspirated makes it better than if it were a turbo car.
Okay.
And
is that really an unpopular opinion?
Nobody cares about the naturally aspirated cars.
Okay.
Nobody. I'm one of like 3 people who have put any amount of time and effort into a naturally aspirated car.
Fair enough.
So I want to experience a turbo car.
Yeah, of course.
Turbo version of my car. Like I would really like to at some point own a turbo like Daytona or Charger or whatever, because they made the two-door version of my Omni was called a Charger at the time. I would love to own one of the turbo ones. It doesn't necessarily need to be a Shelby one. I just want to try one out, see what they're like. I think on the street every day, I think a turbo car would be more fun than my naturally aspirated one, because that was back in the 80s when turbo lag was king, and I think that turbo lag is a popular opinion in of itself.
Yeah, repeat that. I lost you.
I think that those, the 80s cars, a lot of 80s turbo cars had a lot of turbo lag because turbo technology was not what it is now.
Right.
And I think on the street, when you're just driving around, enjoying your car, being silly and stupid, turbo lag is fun.
Yeah.
That was one of the characteristics of my S10 that made it so fun, is because the turbo lag was so silly and ridiculous. It was hilarious. And like, it's not usable and it's not fast, but it was fun. And I think that's what street cars should be about.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that the turbo Dodged, or the turboed front-wheel drive Dodges of the 80s would be a lot of fun for the same reasons. And, I kind of like turbo lag in certain situations, and I'm sure that's probably an unpopular opinion in of itself.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be like, yeah, I love my lag. But I do see your point. In a street car setting,
fun.
Absolutely.
It was hilarious to like, you'd pull out in the S10 and you just kind of roll easy through first and shift it to second and floor it. Nothing happened, and it just would hit boost that thing just came on to boost so hard for what it was. I mean, granted, it was only like 200 horsepower, so it wasn't that fast, but it would come on to boost so hard for what it was, and then almost instantly you'd be out of rev and you'd have to shift and you'd be back out of boost. And you're like, this is the most ridiculous thing in the world. And it was fun because it was silly and it made it feel so much faster than it really was. The way that the way that it came onto power made
Yeah.
it feel much faster than it really was. And I think that's fun. It's cool. And I like it. And I think that the front wheel drive Dodges of the 80s would be the same way.
If not
And so
worse.
I want to experience one of them.
We can make that happen.
So it'll happen someday, I think.
All right. Drew says that Kookies are better than Zankies, which are so Kookies are the 97, 98 Nissan 240SXs. Zankies would be the 95 to 96s. So when he says that Kookies are better than Zankies, I look at that and go, yeah, everybody knows that. I had no idea that there was anybody on Earth that was like, give me the Zanky. I thought
for the
that
less educated masses here, Robbie's talking about 240s.
Yep.
I think S14s specifically,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, 95, 96 is
Okay.
Zanky, 97, 98 is Kookie.
That doesn't mean anything to me, Robbie. And it doesn't mean anything to a lot of people. So that's S14, which I think means something to some people at least. The Kookie is the angry eye one.
Yep.
Which
Zanky has the rounded
people can
eyes.
follow. And then Zenki just kind of, he looks kind of maybe a little sleepy.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yep.
You
Kind
know?
of like the teardrop eye, like just the rounded in headlights, and then the Kookies have like the rectangular headlights. And I was under the impression that everyone was a fan of the Kookies, and the only reason anyone had the Zenkies were because they made a shitload of the Zenkies. They're everywhere. For example, I have the numbers in front of me. They made 32,448 Zankies. They made 5,833 Kookies. The chances, if you buy an S14, the odds of you getting a Zenki are 5 times greater than, or even more, 6 times greater than if you're going to get a Kookie. They're just not available. And that's why I thought everyone wanted the Kookie, because they were harder to come by, and in my opinion, better looking. So when people say, like, no, I wanted the Zenki, I was like, no, you didn't. You're very much in the minority there. So when he says that, I was like, no, that's the general opinion. So maybe I've just been dispositioned that way, but I've always thought it was Kookie better than Zenki as the popular opinion.
My completely uneducated opinion of this is that the Kookie probably does look better. But when you Google this stuff, because I didn't know what either one of them meant, I've decided almost all of these results have body kits on them, and I've decided that the body kit will make or break it despite it being Kookie or Zenki, because some of these Zenkis look fine and some of these Kookies look terrible.
Yeah. And that doesn't matter what the front end looks like at that point.
Right, because the bumper is ridiculous.
Yeah, and the rear ends are the same. And another example that someone put in the replies was everyone Kookie swaps the Zenkis. Nobody Zenki swaps anything.
Right.
So
S13 hatches are still the best, so whatever.
Like, they're okay.
Nah, dude, they're the best. That taillight setup, so good.
I almost bought one. All right, just Drew.
The only thing,
you go.
Those are all pop-ups. Then I don't like those. Oh, there's an unpopular opinion. Pop-ups suck. Get over it.
Pop-ups do suck.
There's my definitely triggered unpopular opinion. God, I hate them so much.
The only reason any of you like them is because Jalopnik told you to. Think for yourselves. They're ugly.
It's the most un-80s thing about me, for sure.
No, I don't like them either.
No, I knew you didn't.
No. Drew also says the new Mustang, Camaro, and Challenger are all ugly.
I really like the new Mustangs, and I don't mind the Challenger, but the Charger is a much better looking car.
I'm the opposite. I do like the Challenger, and I do like the new Mustang.
Yeah.
And besides the newest Camaro, I'd like the newer ones too. So I would agree that that's an unpopular opinion.
Yeah, I think even people who don't like Mustangs usually think that the new one looks good, even if they don't want it.
Yeah, but as far as I'm concerned, anything past 2015 is a really good looking car.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like the new Mustangs, and I'm not a Mustang guy at all. All right, Andrew says that he loves Land Rovers, especially Land Rover Discoveries, the least reliable car ever made. I'm an idiot, but the heart wants what the heart wants. Fight me. That's aggressive. So aggressive.
It is aggressive.
For Andrew.
And it doesn't surprise me that he feels this way about those. They are terribly unreliable.
Yes.
But I absolutely can get behind his love for a Discovery. That said, I'd never own one.
Never in a million years ever. But I can see why people like them. But it's a horrible, horrible, horrible choice.
Yeah.
You do you, bro. I can see why it's unpopular.
I think he should buy one.
You should.
He should.
You just sold your Porsche.
He's down a 944. I think he needs to buy a Land Rover.
I think you have to, right?
There's a place just down the road here, a couple miles from my house, that restores them and kind of resto mods them, if you will. If you need me to, I would be more than happy to swing by and like pick up a business card or get some contact information or, browse their inventory for you if you need. Just hit me up.
We can make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's already got the big pickup. Now he just needs something for daily driving and off-roading, obviously.
Yeah.
Trevor says that Skyline GTRs are overrated. And then Justin chimes in as saying Supras are too.
Skylines and GTRs.
Yeah.
He's newest one
he's
is
talking both.
Just a GTR.
Correct. He is talking both.
So.
I don't
know.
I have a hard time with the word overrated when it comes to Skylines and GTRs. I think they're played out, and I think that the culture around them has ruined them, but I think they're wonderful cars.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it as well.
And the Supras, I think, are a little overrated. But again, I don't blame the car. I blame the culture.
Right, that's the same situation.
And again, the Supra's way too expensive for what it is. Skyline too, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, the R34 GTRs, when they are finally legal here in the United States,
it's not worth $100,000.
Are going to be so insanely expensive.
It's not worth it. It's not worth $100,000 to me. No way.
It's not. No.
Drew again. All pickup trucks should be taken off the roads. And he's not saying
sure he's just trolling.
He has to be. He's not saying they need to be off-roaded. He's saying there should not be a single pickup truck on the public road.
I think that all pickup trucks should be taken off-road. That's what I'm going with.
They absolutely should be driven off-road. Gravel at the very least. Daily.
I got a truck stuck in the mud today. It was great.
On purpose?
No, God, no.
I thought this was your four-wheel drive, one-axle car.
I was in a bucket truck today.
Ah, fun.
Which is also four-wheel drive on one axle because it's a dually without four-wheel drive. And it sank real deep in some mud in a ditch really, really fast.
Whoops. Did you have to get a tow truck?
No. So we've been doing a bunch of work. They put up a bunch of new poles out west of Des Moines. And the new poles are way, way tall. And the ditches are pretty wild, and so we had to rent like this 80-foot lift to be able to reach most of the poles without getting stuck at every single one of them. And so I was just kind of following the lift around today with the bucket truck because it has all the parts and the tools in it. And I pulled off the road just a touch too far at one spot and just right into the mud. And so we just hooked a tow rope because we always have tow ropes on our trucks. We just hooked it onto that giant 80-foot JLG, and it just pulled it out like it wasn't even there because those things are crazy low geared and have so much torque. It just walked it right out of that thing like I wasn't even hooked onto it.
That's good.
incredible pieces of machinery. They're so funny. So
nice. So far, I'm putting him in the top spot for, if this is real and he really believes this would definitely be the most unpopular opinion.
Oh, for sure.
Living in a world without a single pickup, that's insane.
It's not going to work well.
Not at all for anybody. I'm like we talked about this off air, but I agree with you that not necessarily driving a pickup truck for a daily driver is a good idea, and that most people don't even need pickups. But to go that far of another step to say that pickups shouldn't exist, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, that's definitely a step too far.
Cam says that cats belong in streetcars and hood dumps belong on race cars.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Anybody who's daily street driving their hood dump is asking for trouble.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't rain. And I do think that people's dislike for cats has gone a little too far at this point.
Yeah.
So
says the guy that owns 2 cars without cats. But I don't.
Yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to put cats on my Omni or anything like that. Don't get me wrong. But
I don't. It might be an unpopular opinion, but he's not wrong.
There's the SCCA time trial national rule set requires cats in a number of classes, and I bet you that is one of the most hotly contested rules. And I think that there's a lot of people who are strangely attached to the idea that a catalytic converter is making their 2017 Mustang slower.
Which, if you watch any sort of scientific evidence, it shows that it's not. You can restrict.
Modern day cats are not what they used to be.
No, and you can restrict the hell out of your exhaust without affecting performance. It's your intake that's the problem. Like if you restrict that'll restrict performance. But you can pinch off a lot on your exhaust before you really see anything come back. It's shocking, actually.
Well, and I promise you that the cat that was on my Omni when it was factory was more restrictive than a modern day catalytic converter.
Oh, sure.
And that in 1984, removing the cat off my Omni was probably a performance advantage, a performance gained modification. But it amazes me how many people who are like our age and younger who still hold on to that as being a true statement, even on new cars.
Yeah, it's not anymore.
No.
All right, E-Man, again, says that the SC400-300 is better looking than the Mark IV Supra, and I think that's unpopular to a lot of people, but not this group, meaning me, you, and him.
I think if I ever decided, like, okay, I'm going to build a drift car, like I've finally drank the Kool-Aid, let's do this.
Yes.
It would be an SC platform for sure.
It's
one of my favorite looking cars.
It's so
as
underrated.
A drift car.
Yes, it's like a longer 240 because it's got a very similar shape, but it's not quite as big as as a Supra. Or like
it probably isn't, but it looks lower, which
yes.
I think is because it's
longer.
Like the hood is so long.
Yeah.
And the vehicle's so stretched out, it makes the roof line look lower, and I just really like it.
I've always really liked it. I wish that they had more options. Like again, because it's real hard to find one with a manual transmission unless you swap it. Which I mean, transmission swapping is really not hard, but yeah, it's.
Let's be real here, Rob. We're gonna put an LS in it anyway.
That would improve a lot of shit about it.
I mean, I don't want that 2J crap. It's got too many cams. It's just you don't need that.
Yeah, you just need one cam.
You just need one cam, especially when all the cylinders are in a line. That now you're just being
you're complicating shit for no reason.
You're just overcomplicating things just to not be GM.
There you go.
Nobody needs that.
There you go. That's an unpopular opinion. You don't need more than one cam. Just chill out. Jeez. Ryan, again, the newer body Dodge Dart might actually look badass as a World Time Attack build. But he put a question mark on it, which shouldn't be a question mark. It should be a statement, because he's right.
I really hate that Dodge neutered this car so badly and put such terrible drivetrains in it, because I think it could have been a very good looking car.
Yes.
You know, I think it has the lines of what could have been a very good looking tuner car. You know, could have adapted well to modifications, but there's nothing that they put under the hood that makes me want to do it.
Right.
So, like, you could get the Fiat Abarth motor in it, but they had a terrible transmission because they wanted to lengthen out the gear ratios to get better gas mileage and fuel economy and stuff like that, which I understand. That's kind of the point of a small economy car, but at the same time, like, you know, if they would have left the short ratio trans that was in the 500, it could have been so much cooler.
Yes. That would have been way more fun.
Yeah. So,
anyways, Joseph, front-wheel drive is actually a performance advantage if properly set up. I think it's unpopular because people refuse to believe it.
I don't know that it's an advantage. I do believe that
I think we've been
well set up cars that the advantage begins to disappear as not only as you get the car better set up, but as you move upwards in modifications.
Yeah, I think that your front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive starts to make less and less of a difference the higher you go and the better setup it is. You properly set it up, It doesn't matter. And looking at it, like I prefer rear-wheel drive. I've always been that way. It's just, again, it's my opinion. That's all the only reason I have behind it is I just like that. But I'm not
convinced that it doesn't matter. I just think it matters less.
Yes, and that in itself is an unpopular opinion. Someone will take offense to that, and to a point where they're going to say that's bullshit. Front wheel drive slow, torque steer, bro, torque steer.
Yeah, well, I have a car that supposedly torque steers terribly, and it's never noticed it. So,
and that's why it's an unpopular opinion. Same Joe.
Yeah,
I keep calling him Joe. Joseph. Miata is not the answer. You're just asking the wrong question.
We've kind of beat that one to death.
Yeah. Ryan, it should be. Oh yeah, it should be expensive to get your driver's license. One-on-one instruction. Yeah. So we've talked about that and completely agree. That's unpopular because it's true. Dustin,
I like how he says. Says the guy who just did an online driver's ed course that took 3 days for $120 and had their parents teach them to drive. He's like, I realized that what I'm saying is exactly the opposite of what I did, but I still think that this should be that way. Which,
I mean, that's exactly what we did. We took some classes and drove with an instructor. But
that's what most everybody
he slept
did.
half the time. He goes, I trust you guys.
Yeah.
Like, he goes, after the first day, he's like, I trust you. And he just took a nap. We just drove around for an hour. Signed off. Pencil whip that through. Here's your license.
That's hilarious.
Dustin, drivers over a certain age should be required to take a road. Yep, every year. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Dustin again.
He said specifically he proposes an age of 70, and I think that's way too high. Because what he's saying is that as you get older, you should have to prove that you're still capable of being on the road.
I think you're aging people too much because most people.
I think that all ages should have to prove that they are still capable of being on the road.
Okay, I see where you're going with that. I thought you were saying like 70 is too or not old enough or too old. I was like, well, if you're going to pick an age 5 years after retirement, seems like the right one, but. If you're going to go the other end of the spectrum,
the age is 16.
Agreed. I think that's fair. Well, it's not. No one's going to agree that it's fair because that's the culture we live in, but it's unpopular for a reason.
3 to 5 years is fair. Like, I don't think that it needs to be annual.
No.
And maybe as you age, that interval could shorten. I could see an argument for that.
That or the bigger the like. You could take the minimum requirement, and you have to test every year, or you could take a special licensing, which takes extra classes and extra stuff, and then it takes 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, you have different levels of licensing. And the higher the licensing you go, you've done like driving school and you've done all this extra stuff and you're a great driver. You don't have any tickets. You don't have any of this bullshit. 5 years. Then if you get a license, you get tickets and all that stuff, you get back to 1 year. I think it should be something you earn.
Yeah.
Dustin again. Adam Jabay ruined Time Attack. He fucked it. He just fucked it right over. He took it and he made it great and then just was like, ruined it. Goodbye, Time Attack.
So I was thinking about this, right?
You did this.
Here's
You're the reason people are saying this.
Oh, that's fine. I'm good with that. But I was thinking about this, and so rollerblading's been on my mind a lot lately, right?
I just downloaded Airborne.
I busted out my PS3 so that I could play, because I have the Gen 1 PS3 that plays PS2 games.
Me too.
And so I've been playing Aggressive Inline a little bit here and there.
Hell yeah.
Great fucking game.
Excellent game.
Right. But I was thinking about this, right? And you know how there's going to be like 2 other people that listen to this podcast that understand the analogy I'm about to make, but that's fine. I'm going to make it anyway.
This is just for them. It's unpopular for everybody else. That's the whole point of this show, is that it's unpopular for most people.
So you remember when we were skating that there were kind of 2 camps of rollerbladers. There was the group of people that I think you and I kind of fell into that always looked up to the pros that were kind of more like marketable people.
Yeah. Like
trying to figure out how to say this nicely.
That didn't
more like clean cut and like looked like they kind of actually cared.
Someone that you
about how they look and stuff like that.
Yeah, someone that you'd want the face of your company to look like.
Right. And
not a fucking scumbag.
And we always wanted rollerblading to be more popular, to grow, to have more people participating in it, to have more money involved in it, that sort of stuff. And then there was like the other group of people that were like, no, rollerblading is perfect the way it is, and we don't want it any bigger, and you bring more people into it, it's just going to ruin what we have, right?
Yep.
Well, that's what Adam did to Time Attack.
That's a really, really good analogy.
He ruined it by making it so good that there's all these people that want to be a part of it.
He commercialized it.
And so now it's not cool anymore.
It's not quite as niche-y as it was.
Like people who really liked old Green Day.
Yeah.
Now they're sold out.
Yeah, Adam sold out Time Attack.
Yeah, he Green Day'd Time Attack. And that's how he ruined it.
Okay. Yeah, fuck you, Adam Jabay, for being successful and growing the sport. Take that.
Yeah.
How about that? All right. Joe King again. He says that we got to start whipping through these pretty quick.
Yeah, we're going to have to come back to this later, maybe.
The Miata 1.6 is better performance engine than the 1.8. I don't know.
I don't know anything about it either.
Okay. Well, that's unpopular because the 1.8's better.
But he did make the statement that the rod ratio stuff, which the 1.6 has a better rod ratio than the 1.8, and that is like really kind of advanced engine building things. Yep. And if you want to look it up, you can. I don't want to talk about it because I don't know enough about it. But the word rod ratio is kind of funny.
The 1.6 has a better rod ratio.
Rod ratio.
I might start skipping around here if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Wesley says that modifying bank car owned cars is stupid, and him and I agree completely, and it's unpopular because a lot of people do it.
I will agree that modifying them is not a good idea.
Yes. Joe King, again, lightweight pulleys and flywheels are terrible ideas and cause engine failures, and I wholeheartedly agree. I don't care how unpopular it is. Lightweight flywheels fucking suck.
I don't understand the lightweight pulleys.
No.
That one never made any sense to me.
Nope.
I can't imagine that makes that much difference. Like, maybe if this was some high-strung race engine, sure. But it's not. So just calm down.
No, it's really frustrating with the lightweight flywheel when you push the clutch and then all of a sudden it drops down to like no RPMs immediately.
Yeah,
and then kills the engine.
I've never had any car that had any crazy flywheel on it, so I've never had to deal with that.
The first SR20 did, and it was awful. Hated it. And then I got rid of that one and got a normal one, and I've had basically, like, they'll have them in stages. So, like, let's just say, I understand they don't actually do, but let's just say OEM would be like stage 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. I would always go to, like, the next one to stage 1 and never go to, like, stage 5. Obviously, that's not how they do this, but, you know, just to get a point across.
Yeah. One I want to pull out here that's a little bit below that. Calvin says people expect performance cars to also be luxury cars, and they shouldn't be. 150% fucking right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the opposite of that can also be true. Because people also seem to think that luxury cars need to be performance cars, and that's not the case either.
No.
So...
No, again, that's kind of where I go with the high horsepower luxury sedan thing. It is like, just pick a side. Just be a luxury sedan. That's fine. Chris says that this is probably a popular opinion, and I think he's got a point. But insurance companies ruin everything fun, track days, autocross, etc. I don't think that insurance companies are. I will go back a step and say that the insurance companies need to be there. That's great. It's lawyers and our culture. It's our sue happy culture that if something goes wrong, you go and get a lawyer. You don't fix your shit.
You find some reason for it to not be your fault.
Yep. You don't take responsibility. It's not the insurance company's fault. It's the lawyer's fault. When you and I were at that skate park in Michigan and the guy signed...
I'll never forget this.
It's burned into my memory, and I wouldn't have let him skate. But this kid was signing a waiver, and his dad signed the waiver and immediately turned to his wife and said, "This would never hold up in court." Get the fuck out.
Yeah, so
if that's your attitude,
at that
get out.
Park, because it was a private park. If you're under 18, you have to have a guardian sign the waiver.
Basically saying that if you fell and broke your arm and it wasn't due to like
they're not liable.
Yeah, it's not if it's not the park's negligence that did it. Like if you were trying to trick and you fell, that's on you. Which is exactly that's what it is. I go to a racetrack. I go to a skate park. If I fall doing a trick, that's on me. If I get stabbed in the eyeball because there was a knife sticking out of something that shouldn't have been there, then we can talk about who's at fault.
Right. If I'm rolling across the deck of a ramp and the ramp collapses,
we can talk about that.
We can talk about that not being my fault.
Yes.
That's probably not my fault. But if I miss a trick and break my arm, which I've done more than once,
yes,
that's my fault.
Yes, if I try a double backflip and land on my neck and break it, that isn't your fault. It's my fault. I did the trick and failed.
Yep. 100%.
All right. Lawyers, bad. Insurance, good. Justin says that 2.6s are better than 1.9.
I'm still not okay with that. I still think that two disappointed girls is way worse than one disappointed, and I'm sticking with it.
Yep, I can talk my way back into a 1.9 faster than I can talk my way back into 2.2s or 2.2s. I could probably talk my way back into 2.2s no matter how disappointing it was. 2.6s.
I like how E-Man follows it up with, I would even say that 2.5s is greater than 1.9. Way to keep your standards high.
2 is better than 1, I guess. Keep your odds high.
I mean, that's 10 versus 9. That's better.
That is better. Yeah, 2.6s is technically a 12.
That's pretty good.
There can only be one automotive podcast, Adam, and guess what? It's neither you or Jabe.
That's probably true.
Adam Carolla has a podcast. That's why. That's the only thing.
Oh, son of a bitch! I didn't even think about that.
Sorry, Jabe.
Son of a bitch. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one to beat.
Engineering, or Calvin says the engineer didn't design your vehicle poorly. Management did. It's unpopular because it's true.
Robbie, how do you feel about this?
He's 100% right.
I'm sure that if we let you, you would really get up on a soapbox about this one too.
Yep, you design it the way you want it, and then you have a manager look at it, and then you have the finance department look at it, then you have all these other people look at it, and they say, no, we can't do this, this, and this because we need it to cost $3. But it's made of magnesium. It needs to be $3. Figure it the fuck out. Oh, okay, so it's going to suck.
We want this to be printed faster, Robbie.
Yep. Aaron claims that wagons are cool.
And he's right.
I was going to say,
I said at the beginning of this was automotive opinions, not automotive facts, Robbie.
The reasons it's unpopular I think it's unpopular because wagons are lame. It's for dullards. But I think I'm very much in the minority on that one.
I think that's another situation like around the water cooler. Like if you went to normies and you said, "Hey, are wagons cool?" They will say no.
I don't know. Yeah,
yeah, for sure, dude.
Like a minivan.
Otherwise, there would still be wagons, but there really aren't.
Yeah. Crossovers, which are just rounded wagons.
Lifted wagons.
Joe again. A wider tire can actually make you slower. Oh man, that's gonna hurt some Miata. Or it's actually Miata tire guys like this. It's the Corvette guys aren't going to like this at all.
Yeah.
It's unpopular because it's true.
Yeah, probably.
Calvin claims that NASCAR drivers are the best racers in the world. That's an unpopular
I don't know where
opinion.
I came across this, but I was watching, I think it was on my Facebook feed because NASCAR's doing a bunch of like rewinds, right? And they were showing some guys doing like team drafting around, I think, Daytona.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Those dudes are like, I know people, they're inches off the bump. No, seriously. They're
crazy.
They're 2 inches away from each other, and they're doing 200 miles an hour. It's crazy.
It's so different. I wouldn't go as far as to say they're the best racers in the world, but I would agree that's an unpopular opinion because they don't get near enough respect for what they do.
Yeah, that's true.
Ben says that the Fast and Furious movies are trash and Paul Walker wasn't some kind of hero to glorify. I like him. It's fine. This is your opinion, man.
I liked off-screen Paul Walker more than on-screen Paul Walker, but Paul Walker also had some really bad stuff that he did too. So never meet your heroes. All do.
Yeah, we all got our skeletons.
I don't want to go too far down that path. We'll look it up if you want. But yeah, I see where he's coming from, and I think that I look back on the Fast and the Furious movies with fond nostalgia, but they are terrible movies.
Yes, and in my opinion, they get worse with age. All of them get worse.
They don't exist after Tokyo Drift.
I will bear through 4 and 5, but yeah, I agree. Nope. Even I'll watch 6, but it's not a Fast and the Furious movie to me. But yeah, if it wasn't for the nostalgia and me watching as a 14-year-old, then yeah, I don't think I would like him near as much.
Yeah.
John decided to go the polar opposite and say Booney's mutton chop sideburns were sexy. He clearly didn't understand the point of this. We said unpopular opinions, and maybe the opinion is that he's mad because he doesn't have them anymore. Because obviously everybody knows that his mutton chops were sexy as fuck. Like, so hot.
Don't ever say that again, please. That made me very uncomfortable.
The way I said it, or
the fact that you used
how I said it,
the way you delivered the word "hot" really made me feel uncomfortable.
That I am very happy because I accomplished my goal. I saw it through, and I said it the way I meant it.
Wow.
This is how you keep a sponsor happy for everyone listening at home.
It's not about selling product.
I'll do anything to sell a product. If you're a company, you have sexy sideburns too. William He says that your car is already fast and it's you that's slow. I feel like that was personally attacking me, but whatever.
I think I and my car are slow. What's up?
But I can see why that's an unpopular opinion, because people do not take the driver modification serious enough, in my opinion.
I think that attitude's slowly changing.
Oh yeah, I think the fact that, you know, with Ross Bentley's success and Racers 360 being able to take off the way they have, I would completely agree. I think people are realizing how much value is in coaching, and there is a lot. There's an insane amount, because like a good measuring stick is me going on iRacing with everybody else and going, man, I'm 6 seconds off pace with these, like, the fast guys. I clearly have a lot to improve on. Calvin says that the term motorsport is incorrectly used, and I don't know what he means by that.
No, I don't either.
Because I don't think it is. It literally means sports that use motors, like motocross, flat track racing, IndyCar, Formula One. I wonder
if he means like autocross isn't a motorsport or something like that.
It has a car.
I would consider it a motorsport.
All of that is.
I could see. I know a lot of people argue it's not racing.
They need to get off their high. Just tell them to get off their high horses. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Just, how's the view up there, Dick? That's where we at. Calvin says that physical gauges are better than displays. We've beaten
These
that.
are facts.
Yeah, that is a very popular opinion amongst the people listening to this. Joe says that aftermarket LED bulbs and factory housings are terrible, and they actually put out more light, but they make it harder to see more in detail. And I would completely agree. It's probably unpopular because people do it and then they claim that it's better. But I really like the LEDs that were that same bulb type. So, like, not just a generic LED. So like people that do the generic HID or generic LED headlight swaps, yeah, I completely agree. That sucks. But I think if you replace the bulb with an LED bulb that's the same bulb, then it works like the way it's supposed to, then it's good. LED, all the things.
Yeah.
Joe says he'd love to see more shooting brakes, and I can see why that's an unpopular opinion because they suck.
I'm not even going to go there. It's not worth it.
Peter says not all BMW drivers are dicks.
It's an interesting stance to take.
It is. Based on I feel like I've said enough nice things about Booney based on my previous comment that I'm not even going to talk about that. Randy is a nice BMW driver.
Oh, Jesus.
How far do we want to go down this list? Scott
try
says
and skip a few here.
Scott says trucks are race cars.
Word up, homie.
Yep, it's I think this group's gonna say that. Yeah, he's right. It's good. Race truck good. Adam says that drag racing is not fun and takes no skill. That is a very unpopular opinion.
I don't agree with him
because I completely disagree with him. And there's probably a few that agree, but I think that people do not give drag racing the respect. Not the word I'm looking for, but it's popping into mind.
Well, I think that it's the same thing as like road course guys saying that NASCAR drivers suck. Like, it's just different. It takes totally different skills.
Yeah, I mean, because
and it still is probably the most accessible form of racing.
Yeah.
It is certainly one of the easiest ways to dip your toe into motorsports. I think that the argument could be made that it's even more accessible than autocross in the fact that it's much easier to figure out. Because I totally can understand how autocross courses can be very intimidating to a new guy. My first autocross I ever went to, I was DNF every single run I went on because I was on the wrong side of a slalom cone every single run. So I get it. It can be very intimidating. Drag racing doesn't have that. And so even if you start out drag racing, it's getting your feet wet. It's getting you in the direction of being involved in cars, and that's not a bad thing. So, and I think that bracket racing is cool to participate in. I understand why people don't like watching it as much, but I think it's a much better way of managing budgets in racing than spec racing is on road courses. So,
yep. I
deal
agree
with it.
I agree with you. Zach says James May is the best of the three presenters on Top Gear Grand Tour.
I don't agree with him.
No, I like Richard.
I like Richard as well.
That being said, they are the trifecta. They're the best together.
Absolutely.
Peter says that loud exhausts are stupid.
I tend to agree.
I won't disagree, even though I totally live a different life.
Well, so I saw, before the world ended, Grid Life was supposed to go to NCM, and NCM has decibel limitations.
It's 100
and they're it's like 103 or something.
103 stands out. I don't know if that's right.
I want to say it's 103.
That sounds right.
And there were multiples of people, even like Gold Pass holding Grid Life regulars, who were like, well, guess I'm not going to NCM because my race car should be loud. And I'm like, man, 103 decibels is loud.
So loud.
It is loud. And if your car is louder than that, I don't want you on the racetrack. I don't care where we are, deal with it.
I thought the 240 was going to be at that threshold, and they're like, "No, you're well under." I was like, "Okay," because that's a loud car to me.
Yeah,
so good, but it doesn't need to be any louder than that.
Like I understand, wanting to have a car that's loud enough that you can hear the car over all of the other things going on around you.
Yes,
but anything beyond that is unnecessary.
It's obnoxious. Well, that's
absolutely.
why I spent the extra money to get a vibrant, ultra quiet resonator for the Z. It sounds so much better, even though it's dramatically quieter.
I bet it does. It's
so much better. Now
and on the street, it's just about the worst thing in the world. It's loud exhaust.
Yeah, the Z is actually louder in the car because of all the rattling and all the extra stuff than it actually is outside the car. So it's really
that kind of adds to the character of the car.
Yeah, it's really deceiving how loud.
The gutted out, this car makes rattles and rolls, and I can hear rocks bouncing off the bottom of the car now and stuff like that. That stuff adds character to the car, and I enjoy those things for what they are. But loud exhaust is just obnoxious.
Yep. Speaking of that, Peter also says stripping the interior out of your street car is stupid. He's not wrong, and I think it's unpopular. No. And even, I guess the 240 still has carpet and a driver's seat, and then the Z has carpet and two seats, but it's also got a cage in the back now. So
got a back half.
But yeah, neither one of these are considered street cars in my eyes, even though I do drive them on the street. So I don't know. Yeah,
you see certainly more so than the 240.
Yeah, I have no intention to drive the 240 on the street much. But the Z,
right.
Again, the long-term goal probably is to not have either one of them on the street, more than just to for fun once in a while. They're not they're not street cars, and they were never intended to be. Jerry says that the Japanese style of drifting is overrated, and to the best of my understanding, is that the Japanese style is all about control and poise, and the American style is all about entry speed and smoke. So
I like entry speed and smoke.
Yep. So as an American, I think that the loud V8s going fast into an entry speed with a lot of smoke is obviously better. So his opinion is not unpopular in America, except to JDM boys.
I was going to say that's like a JDM fanboy thing.
Yep.
So I'm sure we've triggered a handful of people.
Good.
I think I know another text message I might be getting about that comment.
All right, I got 3 more, and we'll wrap this up. Scott says that the Subaru goes much deeper and cooler than STI's vaping fuckboys and the Subi Rumble. Speaking as somebody that has done a lot of work to a Subaru and only driven it a little bit, I can agree. I want to drive more Subaru. There's more to it than just the STI.
Subaru has one of the most interesting communities to me because there's a lot of people that live and die by Subaru.
Yep.
You know, so much so that that their wife drives a Subaru and they daily drive a regular, like a more pedestrian Subaru, and then they have their race car Subaru, and like they just do Subaru. And you know, a lot of people might live and die by this car on the track, but not necessarily own them on the street. Honda certainly has that, you know, the way the Subaru is for sure, but not everybody does.
Right.
And I don't know. There's something. Certainly, there's something going on there that clearly is much deeper than the surface, or else people wouldn't be as obsessed with them as there are, and there wouldn't be as many Subaru specialty shops as there are, and so there's definitely something to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely goes against the stereotype, but I don't think he's wrong.
It's interesting to me.
Trevor said
it's more fun to make fun of him.
Of course, it's low hanging fruit, and we are all about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trevor is just saying wonderful things just to be nice, and I appreciate that. Trevor says, "I like the sound of a loud Nissan 3.5 or 3.7 liter." Don't we all? Don't we all?
No, Robbie, we don't.
As long as it has a big-ass resonator in it.
I like the sound of the right exhaust on a VQ. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
But you can do it so wrong, too.
Yes. Straight
Trevor,
piping is the...
Come to a drift day with me. I'll change your mind. I promise you.
There's a dramatic difference between a right exhausted one and a straight piped one. Straight pipe, no good. It's good to a certain decibel and a certain tone, and anything above that is hot garbage.
He talks about wanting cutouts, and I can't imagine anything worse than like an open header cutout 350Z.
That's almost what mine was.
Oh, it's got to be the worst.
The resonator is basically the size of the muffler. and it did everything I wanted it to. It lowered the tone and dropped all the obnoxious noise, and it sounds so good. It almost sounds like Don's.
Right.
But his was a very nice, very well done exhaust. Totally different design than mine. But that's tops in my opinion. But also it wasn't that loud.
No, it really wasn't.
And then Joe, we'll wrap this up, says that some 4-door cars make great race cars. It's really weird how he spelled drift cars, though. RACE. That's not how you spell drift.
There are some great race cars. Because there are race series that aren't so popular here in the United States that are more popular in other places where 4-door cars are kind of the requirement. V8 supercars was kind of that way for a while.
Yep.
It's not that way anymore. Some of the British touring car or European touring car scene is pretty well dominated by 4-door cars, and there's nothing wrong with that, Robbie. I am not going to rush out and build a 4-door,
no.
But I own one.
I
use in that capacity. If I could change anything about it, it would be that the 2 back doors would disappear and it'd be a 2-door. But
no, I don't think it's as unpopular as he thinks it is. Nope. I think more people would agree.
My 4-year-old is yelling for me. Yeah. So
all right, it is about time. Let's move on to the news.
Let's blast out some news real quick and let's shut this bad boy down.
As always, this news is presented by Apex Pro, apextrackcoach.com. If you were looking to get some data units before you get on track this season, because everyone that I know is chomping at the bit to get back on track. Everyone's doing everything they possibly can to get an event going. People are moving forward to have an event either in May or June. So if you are planning ahead with the intention of getting on track this year and improving, because we talked about earlier, like all the coaching stuff is starting to be more popular. Data reviews getting more and more accessible. This is the perfect unit to get involved into that. So I love mine. I'm actually starting to really use it and go through data with I've gone through data with Andrew before multiple times, and it's a way to find places that you're making mistakes, and you can focus instead of throwing money at your car. You can spend a little bit less money on you and get better and go faster. So apextrackcoach.com. Use our code 10tenths for a free mount. Adam, what's going on in the news?
AlphaTauri, who's apparently an F1 team? Question mark.
Used to be Toro Rosso.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Reveals the cost of each missed F1 race,
which is between $1.5 to $2 million
in revenue.
That's a lot.
Lost revenue, $1.5 to $2 million for every race they don't do, and that's kind of staggering to me. But I guess it never dawned on me that, like, if sponsors aren't getting
exposure
out in front of people, they're probably not paying either.
Yep, and you can't blame them. I mean,
I guess the way that Formula One works, you get TV deal money too, and if you're not being aired on TV, you're not getting TV deal money.
Yep.
So that's kind of crazy. I never thought about it. This brought something to my mind that you probably can't answer, but I'm going to ask anyway.
Sure.
So like with all these big sports teams like shut down right now, right? Do those guys go on unemployment?
No, they wouldn't qualify.
Okay. I suppose that there's
I don't know because I've never.
Cap, I would guess.
I am certain that there's a income cap because like even with the stimulus package, anything above a certain number, you got nothing. So
yeah, like $75,000 a year, it was less, and I think $99,000 a year and above was none.
Yes, yeah. So I think unemployment is the kind of the same way. I don't know. I've never actually applied for it.
I just think it'd be funny, like Lewis Hamilton. He applies for unemployment, so he gets his 60% or whatever it is of like $42 million. Wait a second, because that's coming out of my pocket, kind of, and I'm not sure how I feel about that.
No, that's not how that works.
I assume that there's a budget or an income cap, I suppose.
No, but a lot of those guys have guaranteed money, and that's what they're getting paid. But so like some of the like the not LeBron Jameses or the lower level guys that don't have guaranteed money, they're not making shit. So
you're just out of luck.
There probably is people in the NBA or the NFL, especially the NFL, that are on teams that aren't making any money, that probably are unemployment, that are barely scrapping by.
Right.
Or, yeah.
So anyway, racing stuff.
Yep. So, but yeah,
I don't know why this is so interesting to me, but it is.
It's not surprising to me at all because, I guarantee every contract has something, a certain level of exposure, and if for every race they don't make it to, for whatever reason, whether it's the team doesn't make it or the race gets canceled, they're like, we're not on the hook for that money. We didn't get out there. So I think any good contract would have been written that way, and if they're not getting their race fees, TV fees, and if that's how they live and die, it wouldn't surprise me to see some teams go away, as sad as that is.
Well, and one of the things that I would be afraid of is, so if these companies that are paying for the ad or for the advertisement have a bad year, what's the first thing they're going to pull out of next year?
Exactly.
To make up for it, and Mercedes-Benz might be able to keep on keeping on, and like teams like Force India might be able to do it just because they've got billionaire backing and his
Right, but if he's one of the
Williams or Haas has kind of been on the table or on the fence for a while. Like this might be the smoking gun for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, even Mercedes too it's been rumored that they're going to walk away. I don't think it's actually true, but it's been brought up.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to walk away from it, though.
I'd be shocked. I really would.
But at the same time, they can leave they can go out on top.
Yep, they said we did what we accomplished, or did what we intended to do. That's enough for us.
I can see, we had a bad year, and then we've got another year coming up, but then after that, the car completely changes, and we go back to the drawing board, and we cannot guarantee our dominance anymore. We're just going to go out on top and walk away from this. That isn't that far out of the realm of possibility.
No, I think that as sad as it is to say that, I'm sure there's going to be a pretty dramatic shakeup of how this goes about this time next year.
Yeah, for all of racing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Not just Formula One.
And then you got to remember too, like those sponsors that, not just Formula One, but every sport, everyone that's like throwing money into these sports. If those companies don't exist, even, or they don't have the money, because everyone's going to tighten their belt next year or this year.
Yep. even if we're out of this. They're going to have a bad year, and so they're going to need to play it safe for a few years and kind of try and build back up and make up for that. And the first thing they're going to cut is kind of frivolous,
unnecessary
advertising spending. And motorsports just isn't as effective as other modern day advertising methods, and that might just be what it is.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's crazy times, and definitely not in a good way.
No, scary. So, up next, we're keeping our news real short and sweet this week. Toyota to kill all V8s in the next 3 years and replace them with turbo V6s. So, when I first read this, I went, Toyota still makes a V8? And I had to stop and think.
In the Tundra.
Like, oh, yeah, the Lexus.
Yep, they have a picture of the 4.7 liter, but they make a 5.7 I-Force engine for their Tundra.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking about like the GSF and the LC500s.
Oh, yeah. No,
which I think have a 5 liter or something like that in them.
Sounds right. Yeah, I'm not sure how many V8s they have. I know that the only thing I could think of was right off the top of my head was like that I knew there would be a bunch of them would be the Tundra.
I forgot about the Tundra,
which is probably where most of them are.
Yeah,
because I don't think they make a V6 for the Tundra. If they do, I've never noticed it. I thought they were all 5, whatever the hell liter that is. So,
yeah.
But if they make a very good, reliable V6 turbo engine that can tow at least what the V8's doing and gets the mileage and the whatever they're looking for, then great. If it has the same performance, then what difference does it make?
So if you play the turbo game right,
yep,
and you use kind of smaller size turbos, you might not get the top end turbo power, but you can make a ton of low end torque if you play the turbo game right, and that's what you need for towing, generally speaking.
Right.
And so that this can work fine.
And Ford's proven that with the F-150 with their EcoBoost. I mean, the towing.
A lot of people were real negative about it at first, but you don't really see that anymore, and I think that's kind of proven to be a perfectly reasonable thing to use.
If the towing capacity is still there and it can do all the same stuff, then what difference does it make? If you can make a smaller engine do the same things, and you can design your transmission to overcome any sort of shortcomings it might have, and still get that same performance, then what difference? Yeah, who cares? It could be the 1.7 liter if it does the same thing as the 5.7. I don't care. Just as long as I can get the race car to the track, that's all I want.
If it can tow when I need it and gets 5 to 8 miles per gallon better when I'm not using it to tow, that seems like a win.
Absolutely. I think I was very negative about the EcoBoost when it first came out. I'm sure I was.
Right.
I think I've completely gone the other direction on that. I mean, yeah, I like V8s. I like more cylinders. I like V12s, obviously. But
I still think a V8 should be the only thing in a like a Raptor or a Mustang, for Ford specifically, or like if we're talking about Toyota, to me a Toyota with a turbo V6 makes almost more sense.
Yeah, I mean,
or a turbo 6-cylinder in general almost makes more sense than a V8 because I realize the 1UZ was a great V8 and they made it for years and it's a very popular engine. But when you think about Toyota performance motors, you don't think about their V8s, you think about their 6-cylinders.
Right.
And so I think it's very manufacturer dependent, but I don't have any problem getting behind Toyota making 6-cylinder instead of V8s. Makes sense to me. It's perfectly reasonable.
It really does. I mean, yeah, just as long as the performance doesn't diminish. Again, I think it'll be that's probably an unpopular opinion. Whereas like truck guys are like, I need my V8, but I don't. I also don't think that the guys that are buying Toyotas are quite as that side of the spectrum.
They're not the same truck guy.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
For the price range I was at, there was no way I was going to get anything but a V8 to get anything that I'm doing now. But the next vehicle I buy, like my next pickup I buy, all I care about all I care about is the towing capacity, gas mileage. I mean, like I'm not going to look at it and go, I need to have the 6.2. If the 6.2 does everything I need it to, great. But if the EcoBoost whatever does the same things and costs the same and it's going to be better for me long term, then maybe that's the direction I'll go. I think that
right.
If people look at it with an open mind and just look at it from a performance standpoint, I don't think the cylinder number counts. I don't think it matters.
People aren't that good at looking at things with open minds, Robbie.
That's why there's 3 pages of unpopular opinions.
That's fair. That's fair.
But this show has been way too long, and that's probably an unpopular
let's shut
opinion.
this down. My kid is crying in the hallway right now.
That's unpopular.
Yeah.
We will do this again next week, but hopefully do it again next week. And hopefully have a plan in the future to not do this over Skype.
Oh, I can't wait, Robbie.
That'll be the day. That'll be. I
just want to look into your sparkling eyes.
I won't have Booney's. I won't have Booney's mutton chops, but you can look at me anyways.
That's fine.
All right, buddy. You go take care of your kid and get some sleep, and I will talk to you very soon.
All right. See ya.
See you, buddy.